Yeah, season 1 was kind of like, huh?
And
What?
season 2 is more like, huh?
Season 2 is more like, no. Really?
Today's episode is presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
What are we gonna see season 2?
I think people who loved the, action-packedness, I don't think that's a word, action-packedness of season 1 are going to definitely get their fill season 2 as well. Like with season 1, it was more of like the body swapping, time travel element, whereas this season we're like full-on magic, wonderful fantasy land.
Yeah.
So, and even with that, like there's a ton, no spoilers, but so much action and fighting and gore and crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of that happening this season.
Well, it's interesting who ends up different pairings this season.
Oh, I
It's
like
interesting
that.
who pairs up with who. But also for these two, they have a real role reversal. Like Todd is fully on board with the everything is connected, and Dirk is having a total existential crisis. So it's like he becomes the doctor and I'm the reluctant companion. It's kind of twists like that for a bit.
Yeah, some fantasy stuff that kind of gets added to the season, which excites me very much, just as a nerd, as a geek, supporter. Yeah, the more sci-fi element, specifically the fantasy element, is added, and that I always find very fascinating. So yeah, stoked for that.
Oh, how about you?
Bart falls down.
And
all I
goes
got.
boo-boo?
She just falls down.
Everyone starts in a position that you're not expecting them to start in.
Okay, I like that.
It's a reset of the chessboard in ways that's very surprising, and then where it goes from there is also not where you would think it would go from there.
Yeah, season 1 was kind of like, huh?
And
What?
season 2 is more like, huh?
Season 2 is more like, no. Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's awesome.
That's how we would describe watching season 2.
Yeah.
I love it.
Also, the characters grow so much, and I guess when there's 3 different worlds in a show, which right now we have Bergsburg, which is a fictional town in Montana, Wendamore, which is basically our Narnia, and Blackwing, which you saw a little bit of last year. They're all coming together in this amazing way, and it's really pushing all the characters to their limits, and the stakes are so high. It's like I didn't even realize characters could feel this many things about anything.
Yeah, she said earlier, such a good quote, like, it's bigger than life or death. It's like end of the world status kind of this season.
We go to a magic fantasy land called Wendamore in this season with magical creatures and magic. There's also the fictional town of Bergsburg, which is related to a cold case from 60 years ago somehow. And then there's the government agency Blackwing, which is trying to capture people like Dirk and Bart and contain them.
Fiona spoke to flawed geeks, that all these characters are flawed dorks.
Yeah.
You made the correlation to a lot of these superhero characters, they're very flawed heroes.
Right.
We got a show full of flawed not heroes. It's a cool dynamic, I think that exists a bit more in reality. Like every person, the average person is probably a bit more like a character on our show.
Right.
You know what I mean? That flawed, regular, not a superhero kind of thing. That doesn't mean we don't all want to be and hope to be. Or maybe not all are.
This season is all about building your own world and taking control of your life. And it's about people who have find themselves in positions where they are validated, and yet find that validation ultimately can mean very little if you aren't ready to be the person you wanted to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we're provided with a slight bit of context before we start reading these scripts to where we have a sense of where things are going, but we're always surprised, and there's so much fun to be had for everyone involved that it's just exciting every time we read something new.
Click to the left for the deets on the Doctor Who Christmas special. This episode was presented by T-Mobile. With unlimited data, you can fuel your fandom like never before on America's best unlimited network.